All right. Okay, all right. Very good morning there. Wonderful Tuesday morning. As usual, we're right here on your screens in your homes. Some of you already in your offices to start the day. Good morning to you. We are coming to you live from the center of the world. This is New Day. The team is ready. The beautiful Solis and Amma, and then the ugly Johnny.
You mean the handsome Johnny?
Okay, now he's beginning to sound like...
Yes, I know it was a slip. That's why I'm just
now he's
putting
beginning
it
to
in.
sound like... Or you wanted it to be funny. You intentionally did it, so you wanted it to be
Let's not go down that road. But anyway, good morning to you too, right? Hope we all had a good night.
Charlie, it was a good night
but
for
it was
us.
difficult waking. I don't know whether sleeping too much in the afternoon is better or worse. Because in the night you struggle to sleep.
When you
Well, at
sleep,
least
if you
for me,
sleep alone,
because I'm a light sleeper. If you do what?
You sleep alone.
Yeah.
Like,
really?
Yeah, you need to...
No, so why?
me,
If
when I
there's
sleep in
someone
the
beside you, what's the person going to do? Shut your eyes for
No,
you?
somebody will kick you. You know that well. It's
Well, for me, regardless of whatever time I sleep in the afternoon, I still sleep.
Yeah.
I still get to
Why,
sleep.
Mr. Bauer sleeps alone?
Hey.
No, I
Okay.
was greeting people.
Yeah, you
Okay.
certainly will sleep alone. Guys, what did you have yesterday evening? I need to ask. Where did you go? What did you see? What did you do?
You're asking why this...
Yeah, because you seem to have connived to do these
What you're
activities
doing this morning.
Yes, we just have to check.
It's telepathy. It's okay.
Nice.
Oh, damn.
Keep it in your corner.
But you guys know out there that today will be better than yesterday.
Oh,
Make it
definitely.
work. Make it work. Make it work.
Papa,
That's
Papa
all.
is still saying, so don't you think guys think, I mean, One Corner was the best song of the year?
I mean, it's all about voting.
It's about voting.
See,
I don't see
there
the
are
reason.
three blocks: the
It doesn't
academy,
seem
the
to
board,
appeal.
and the
And the
public.
public.
Okay, so if I dare say, like, most of those people who are out there calling out and saying Patapa should have won,
They
they
didn't
didn't vote.
They didn't even cast one vote.
Ask Bright if he ever voted for Patapa.
Should we then
if
change,
he cast
should
even
we
one
then
vote
change
for
the
him?
award to the most voted for song?
Oh, I mean,
Most popular song.
Okay, so that you see, because it sparks controversy. So let's add another award: the most voted for song, and then the most popular song. Then I think the controversy.
You see,
can
I
right.
think the whole idea is
Last
that
year-
the vote translates into popularity.
Exactly.
The how
It
many
hasn't.
people are actually backing the song,
Exactly.
actually think that it's worthy of being. Listen, the truth is, with the One Corner song, it might have been popular, but people might not necessarily have.
But I
use the word might.
It was
That
popular.
song was popular.
But you see,
Popularity has nothing
I
to
think
do
Johnny
we
will
also-
always
I
go
think that we
to
also-
what the
But do you
standards
know
are.
that
It doesn't
popularity-
really fit into the category.
No,
of
but
the
you also know
of
that
the song,
popularity does
all
not
the
also
things
translate
that-
into people actually liking something.
Look,
There's a difference.
I think
People
that-
like it.
look,
I
I'm
mean,
not
it
saying
was
that
a
people
fun.
like
It
the
was
song.
People didn't like
funky,
it.
They
it was a
may
movement.
not-
Sometimes the fact that it's popular doesn't mean somebody will actually pick that song and say, no, I want to vote for this song. There are some songs
So
that are
can we-
popular.
That's
People
the thing.
actually
Again,
are
because
passionate
Johnny will
about it.
say
So
when
can
the
we-
board
I'm sorry,
is listening
in
to
spite of the
these
fact that it
songs,
was popular, I
they're
wouldn't
listening
vote
to
for
the
that song.
My
chords that you
suggestion-
play.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
My
listening to a lot
suggestion
of
is
things.
this. My suggestion is this. Let's create another award: the most voted song, and then the
Right.
most popular.
You know why it will not work?
But the most voted
Previous
song then
years,
automatically becomes a song of the
before
year.
this year's VGMA, the most popular song was 100% public vote.
Vote, yeah.
100% too. Then this year, the board had a stake, the academy had a stake, and the public had a stake.
Right.
If you look at the
And they
what-
voted for.
well, I wouldn't know
what is
how
the name of the popular song?
I wouldn't know. I wouldn't.
Total Cheat.
Fancy Adams Total Cheat. I wouldn't know
I
how.
haven't heard it before.
No, but
in
the
my
fact
life.
that you haven't heard it doesn't make it. So I'm saying that.
Oh, God.
The year before,
It's what?
it
Social
was
Cheat.
right. The year before, it was the most voted for song.
Yes.
Now this year, the board had a stake, the academy had a stake, and the public had a stake. I won't know how the board and the academy voted,
yeah.
but as far as we do know, the public votes didn't match up what Fancy Ghana
But certainly they voted for.
Yeah,
the,
I mean-
how do you call it? Social cheat. Yes. the
Yes,
board and
they
the academy
vote.
voted.
So
did.
so did some
85
people vote for Kiddies Odo and
Exactly.
Kwame Eugene's Angela. So this whole argument about I deserve the award and I didn't get it, it doesn't wash.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Did you vote? You,
Did
Brighton
you
Navo,
vote?
Did you vote? Did you
That's the
spend
question.
one
Sitting in
percent
your
to vote? You
homes
didn't
and-
vote.
and
So
then,
you
you
are
know,
part of
talking
first fund.
about-
You didn't vote,
Vote
and you expect him
and
to win.
the one who's had
Oh, how is
fans
that
who
possible?
are loyal, and he's right. Gadam Nation
No, I
fans don't
disagree.
joke.
I mean,
They don't joke.
You see,
Kawula,
do you know-
Kawula.
They don't
Do,
play.
do you know why I disagree? Because you see, once it is not entirely a voting thing, and the academy and the board were involved, how we don't also know whether perhaps the board voted more for the academy than for what is the name? The song than for.
You need to win. You see, the trick is
it is not a matter of voting.
You know,
right? There are three blocks.
Going on and on. But people are waiting for the
I know, but there are
three.
There are three blocks.
Yeah.
You need to win 2 of those.
Okay.
The academy doesn't sit at one place.
Yeah.
So you find reps in Accra and Takra, they are a lot. It's a board that sits at one place.
Yeah.
So you can't say that if your song is popular in Accra and Central Region,
True.
it doesn't mean that your song is popular in
everywhere.
So if the 3 northern regions, your song, your song is popular there.
I think that's also something
Exactly.
we always make.
No,
the fact that it's
make.
popular in Accra, we just assume
we
it's
think that it's popular everywhere.
But it might not.
Accra and Kumasi is not Ghana.
Let's just
some news
acting
now,
as
okay?
Patapa's lawyer. But they'll go to court.
Let's take some news
we'll be
now.
there.
Let's move away from all that entertainment and do some other news from the world of business, health, education, and also find out what to expect by way of weather. Good morning. Welcome to Morning News on New Day. My name is Solis Rose Corte. Let's start the bulletin with this story. And President Akufo-Addo says Ghana and the United Kingdom will continue to maintain strong bonds of friendship and cooperation, share common values of democratic accountability, good governance, and respect for individual liberties with the United Kingdom. And President Nana Akufo-Addo said this when he met the leader of the UK's Labour Party and the leader of the opposition, retired Honourable Jeremy Corbyn, that's the MP. And this was on the sidelines of the 25th Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting currently ongoing in the United Kingdom.
The UK remains one of Ghana's most significant trading partners and a major source of foreign direct investment. At a meeting with UK's Labour Party and opposition leader Jeremy Corbyn on the sidelines of the 25th Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting, President Akufo-Addo pledged Ghana's unflinching resolve to cooperate and continue to share common values of democratic accountability and good governance with the United Kingdom. The two leaders also discussed issues bordering on the deepening of democracy amongst member states of the Commonwealth, the worsening humanitarian crisis in the Democratic Republic of Congo and Syria, United Nations reforms, in particular reform of the UN Security Council, Brexit, and an increase in trade cooperation between Ghana and the UK, and migration.
Now, the Works and Housing Ministry is to access a $100 million World Bank facility to address the perennial flooding in Accra and Kumasi. The sector minister, Samuel Atachia, gave the hint on a tour of some drain sites in Accra.
Officials from the Ministry of Works and Housing and the Accra Metropolitan Assembly toured some 8 drain sites, including the 3 tributaries at Odona. The Minister of Works and Housing, Samuel Atachia, announced a cabinet decision and approval to go for a World Bank loan of over $100 million to end the perennial flooding in Accra. The minister, however, fell short of disclosing whether the money is a loan or grant.
There is no loan now. The only thing which is about to crystallize into a loan is what the World Bank is doing. But when we open the whole system up for competitive bidding, and we have what we call bankable projects, projects with bills of quantities and figures on it, and then you will see that this is how much it's going to cost to do X drainage in Swidro, Y drainage in Kumasi and the rest of it, and it all goes through your big house, the parliament. And it will become bare for you to know that, oh, this is how much loan we've contracted to give this permanent fix.
The minister also announced that Cabinet has approved some 200 million cedis to fix the challenges with Accra's flooding in the interim.
We have decided that because of how serious the problems are and the emergency character of the problems, we'll be able to go faster than the law requires, so that we'll be able to start the dredging as quickly as possible. I mean, we're talking about a time frame in the neighborhood about 21 days.
Meanwhile, government still owes $27 million to Dredge Master, the contractor responsible for dredging the Koli Lagoon. The project director, Captain Ansar Ahmed Khan, says this has stalled work.
It started in 2015 November. Till date, I have not received one CD. But I'm hoping that some payment starts first, so that I can speed up.
The minister gave the assurance that the finance ministry will release funds for the project to continue.
The bodies of 3 children aged between 3 and 6 have been found in the back seat of a saloon car at Elmina in the central region. The children, Mami Equia, Fee and Yao, failed to return home after leaving for church service unaccompanied by their parents Sunday morning. According to the police, the bodies, which have been deposited at the Cape Coast Teaching Hospital mortuary for autopsy, had no marks as was being speculated. And away from that, some indigenous banks in the country are accusing present and past governments of deliberately stifling the growth of local banks. Now, this comes after President Akufo-Addo set up a 10-member committee to look into a petition presented by the Association of Indigenous Banks to extend the deadline of the minimum capital requirement. There's more in the following report.
The local banks argue that governments have consistently overlooked the efforts of local banks and granted huge contracts to foreign banks operating in the country. This, they claim, has put foreign banks in good condition ahead of local banks, most of whom are struggling to meet the 400 million cedis capital requirement. The members of the association made the accusation when they met government at the Jubilee House to present a petition for an extension of the deadline for meeting the capital requirement from December 2018 to December 2022. Among other issues, the local banks accuse governments of giving contracts such as collection of money in key state institutions to foreign banks. They also pointed out that government is quick in using foreign banks as financial advisors during major projects. Citing Nigeria as an example to buttress their point, representatives of the local banks argue that Nigeria has deliberately made a policy where a huge percentage of government's contracts are awarded to local banks to help them grow and also help them create jobs. They maintain that situation is the opposite in Ghana, where major contracts go to the foreign banks. The local banks also shut down arguments that they must grow their capacity to undertake big-ticket projects. They stress that it is not the business of all banks to undertake big-ticket projects. In addition, they argue that the solution to challenges facing the local banks is not to sharply increase the capital requirement in a short period, but to ensure good corporate governance.
Now, still in the banking sector, former Deputy Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Emmanuel Siedu Mante, has chided some local banks for petitioning the president to have the deadline for the recapitalization extended. He argued any intervention by the presidency will undermine the authority of the central bank, a situation he says would affect the financial sector greatly.
Banking experts, economic analysts, and some business groups are hotly debating issues bordering on consolidation of banks in the country and the survival of local banks amidst stiff competition from foreign-owned banks. While the debate has been to have more local banks in order not to give the control of the financial system to foreign banks, others believe it is not about the number of indigenous banks, but their size and ability to control about 50% of both deposits and access to support the economy. A former deputy governor of the central bank, Emmanuel Siedu Mante, says the decision by some local banks to meet the president is unacceptable.
I'm totally against the banks going to see the president because I don't think this is something for the presidency to decide. The Bank of Ghana has a board, 3 governors over there. There's a board of directors composed of very competent people. They are capable of handling this issue. Now, the other thing is the minimum capital is not fixed arbitrarily. A lot of thinking goes into getting the minimum capital fixed. If you start a bank today, the sort of things that you need together before you open your doors to the public to do banking with you, 400 million will be nothing. In fact, it will all be spent by the time you open your doors to the public.
He is of the opinion that an extension of the deadline of the recapitalization for the local banks is not the way to go.
Things 2008, you're talking of 2018, 10 years, things have changed. And what they're doing, the negative side of it is that they'll be creating a class of shares, an inferior class of shares as opposed to a superior class of shares. I mean, banks, sorry, not shares. And I don't think that augurs well for them. Because you see, if you say that, you should be allowed to operate with 200 million, and another bank should be allowed to operate to 400 million. You are just saying that the 400 million bank is superior to yours. And if I know the system and I know that your capital is low, I'm not going to do business with you.
Based on their shareholders' funds, about 12 banks are likely to meet the minimum capital requirement of 400 million Ghana cedis by the Bank of Ghana, far ahead of the deadline, since they have more than enough capital in their balance sheet.
Now, 2 Court of Appeal judges and 2 legal practitioners have been approved for promotion to the Supreme Court. Now, the nomination of Justices Samuel K. Mafo-Sao, Mrs. Agnes M.A. Doji, both Court of Appeal judges, Nene Amegache, former Ghana Bar Association President, and Professor Nia Shikote were approved by the Council of State. Nomination of a Supreme Court judge is done by Judicial Council for the President's consideration and approval by the Council of State. Now, following the approval of the 4 presidents, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo is expected to refer their nomination to Parliament, which will, through its Appointments Committee, vet to determine their suitability for the Supreme Court job. If approved by Parliament, the number of Ghana's Supreme Court judges will move to 16. I am not comfortable. Now, these were the words of one of the persons nominated as a juror in the case involving 14 persons who have been accused of killing Major Maxwell Adam Mahama. She begged the court to be taken off of the panel of jurors on the case. A report by Godfred Tanham. Once again, I am not comfortable. Now, these were the words of one of the persons nominated as a juror in the case involving 14 persons who have been accused of killing Major Maxwell Adam Mahama. Now, she begged the court to be taken off the panel of jurors on the case. Now let's move away from that. And Industrial Global Union has officially petitioned managers of Goldfields to reinstate the 500 workers who have been laid off, describing the move as unfair and unacceptable. The General Secretary of the union, Walter Sanchez, who made this known, is in Ghana to champion a campaign against precarious work. Now, precarious workers are those who fill permanent job needs but are denied permanent employee rights.
Industrial All has more than 50 million membership worldwide. The Ghana Mine Workers Union, the General Transport, Petroleum and Chemical Workers Union, and the Industrial and Commercial Workers Union are affiliated to the union, which has embarked on a campaign against precarious work across the world this year. Having been informed about the laying off of 2,500 workers of Goldfields, the Global Union officially petitioned the management of Goldfields to reinstate the workers.
Really something unacceptable. It's a real violation in the way of the companies should behave. I'm happy to be informed by agreement carried by the Minister of Employment and Labor and the company had took place so that they will revisit the whole process in a good manner.
General Secretary of the Ghana Mine Workers Union, Prince William Ankra, lauded the global body for its solidarity.
let's all be proud of what they've done for us when we had this Gold Fields saga, and to the extent that it compelled our dear nation, the government, to really open up and talk. Even though we reached some agreement with the government and the business, that isn't the best, but it's opened up the doors to let everybody know that, look, you cannot take labor relations for granted.
The General Secretary, Walter Sanchez, expressed concern about low wages and lack of social security for some workers. He called on government to introduce industrial policies to address the increasing spate of precarious work.
Try to mobilize governments to create industrial policies so that the continent can be, freed from the second colonization, which is now under the Chinese. It's like a second economic colonization that we're facing with the Chinese companies here.
General Secretary of the ICU, Solomon Kote, hinted the union intends to petition the global body on issues about child labor.
Even though we say Industrial All is the lead campaigner of precarious work, the other global unions also shuns it without any hesitation. What I believe that the question is leading to is that those companies should also have whatever support they get from the international also withdrawn from them.
The affiliated unions have resolved to fight against precarious work. Globally, precarious workers are subject to unstable employment, lower wages, and more dangerous working conditions, but rarely receive social benefits and are often denied the right to join a union.
Well, that's all for Morning News on TV3. My name is Solis Rose Corte. For more news updates, do log on to www.3news.com.
Welcome back. Let's touch on newspaper headlines now. We'll start off with Ghanaian Times. The president says Ghana will maintain a stronger partnership with the United Kingdom. And then 7 die in road crash at Ahudia. Then also 3 children have been found dead in a car. Then mayhem at Amasaman Ewutu Breku. Angry youth attack herbalist and police and vandalized vehicle, and 5 have been arrested in that case. Interesting stories there.
I'm worried about the spate of accidents. In less than 72 hours, maybe 3 days, if you will. We have lost close to about 30 lives already, and it's worrying.
The Finder has more of that. It says 592 perished in 3 months. As many as 3,343 others sustained injuries in road carnage. And those are the real stories
this is not good. This is certainly not good. I mean, it speaks a lot about how bad our roads are, how insensitive some of the drivers have become, and I'm sure you've noticed recently how people drive with high lights, even when they are not supposed to. I mean, you're wondering where they got their training from, how they are working. There's so much carnage on our roads.
Some even drive with no lights at all,
in
the pitch darkness. And you're wondering where that came. That's why yesterday we raised the concern of DVLE having this recurrent, training, checking that the person who received the license still has the right to drive on the roads, because that needs to be assessed. Because we have these structural boys and young men who just learn how to move gears in the park, and that's about it. But they don't know the real things, tricks, riggers on the road. And they go out there and they're killing people left, right, center. It's worrying.
I think that we must also focus on how worthy our roads are of the cars. Because we pay roadworthy certificates, but some of the roads are not worthy of the cars.
And the converse, some of the cars are not worthy of the road.
Exactly. But then the point is, those cars that are not worthy of the roads, they get, the permit to drive. How do they do that? Okay, now
because they pay their way through.
Yes, but how do they are not supposed to. There are certain things that you look out for. I mean, for example, if a car is more than 10, 15 years, how did they get the roadworthy certificate? Unless by some special arrangement where it's considered an antiquity. And even that, it's not supposed to be moved around. So our laws, our regulations are clear. Why are we not following it? Number 2, if I have a new 4x4, brand new, is it worthy of the potholed, severely potholed road or heavily potholed road? It is not. It's not. So the potholes itself is a recipe for danger, because if I'm driving and I want to maneuver and dodge, somebody is coming at top speed, the street lights are not working, the road markings are not there, we may just crash into each other. Forget about the fact that there's negligence on the side of some drivers, but we bring these problems onto ourselves. Trust me.
Johnny, I have
lives lost and wasted for nothing.
I have this here. This is from the Minister of Information. I'm hoping it is indeed correct. A meeting held yesterday. There's a plan to deal with road accidents. And if you read the statement signed by Curtis Okujeto, the Deputy Minister there, it talks about 3 key areas of action. These are education, enforcement, and then engineering. Now, what is interesting is that under education, an additional 6.5 million cedis is to be given to the road, taken from the road fund to deal with issues of road safety. Now, the enforcement, the statement said that they want to ensure that MTTD begins the spot fine by automation of MTTD operations.
That'd be great.
Okay. Now, that's one key thing. You see, Johnny was raising an issue about vehicles driving with high lights. And sometimes you'll be surprised you would think that the driver does not know the difference between a high light and a dim one.
Right.
But most of the time, it is not the case. You see,
that
it is not working. Okay, so
the dim light is not working.
I am telling you, it is not working.
The
and so the person is driving.
So they have to use the highlight.
Exactly. That's the only light left.
I didn't think about
unless
it.
they wouldn't use anything at all.
Okay, so so for instance, if you remember some time ago, this spot fine was discussed at length, and there were issues about whether to go ahead or not to go ahead. Eventually, we dropped it somewhere. I think that if indeed the spot fine starts, I think we'll go a long way to reduce carnage. And our roads, John was talking about potholes.
Right.
Is it the Takitaria interchange?
Right.
There is a pothole when in the middle there. Okay, it's been there since I started work at TV3.
And it's been there.
It's there today. For this morning when I was driving, it's there. And I keep asking, so no one is seeing this
everybody sees it, it's just ignored.
Okay. Exactly, because you find a way around it, you're able to move on that road, so that solves the issue.
The stretch from the, is it the Prudential Bank?
Right,
towards
the Netherlands.
Yes, the French embassy. If you remember, there used to be a gaping hole in the middle of the road.
Exactly.
It was filled with asphalt.
You know why it was filled? We're told that the president's convoy rode through there once, and then they went through it.
Yes, it was very dangerous.
So they had to go and fix it.
So then I asked, so if you filled this one, why didn't you fill the one in the main circle? So the conditions of the roads we have is also a factor. So I am happy. So if you read the statement, there's also another huge sums of money. That's about 335 million that will go into road markings, providing signage and all that.
Yeah.
Let's hope that
should be. I mean, you can't lure people to commit. For example, the Pokwase Amasaman stretch.
Right.
When you get to ACP, there's heavy traffic there. And it is because of those small potholes.
Everybody is
as soon as you cross it,
it's free.
It's free. And I don't know why, because the traffic then starts from, is it Jonte? It starts all the way from Jonte because of that small pothole.
Because it narrows the road.
Everybody knows about it. Nobody gives a hoot about it. And we're all watching. And you see, people spend 4-5 hours, sometimes 6 in traffic. So by the time they get home, they are tired. They will have to get to work late. Some people may be going for night duty and all of that. It affects the economy in entirety.
It does.
And when drivers stay in traffic for a long time, they get tired, and then in attempt at reaching home, the speed
it affects capacity.
Certain,
so it's a ripple effect. It's a vicious cycle. One thing triggers another, and then it becomes, a status quo. But this thing that is being released, this information,
was just yesterday. Today is 17.
Right.
Okay.
It's
and
nothing new. It's laudable, but again, it becomes paperwork. We put it down because in the past years, have we gone to assess the monies that they took from the fund and what it was able to do? Because over the time, we hear them, putting up street lights. We hear them doing the road markings. We see them. And then what happens of it? So again, it comes to, is it just quality or just the quantity? Is it the fact that you want to put out something that you're doing that really is not there? Because I don't remember the last time I saw good road markings that are what it is. Broken lines, straight line. I mean, it's all jumbled up. Those that are supposed to be, you know, not broken lines have become broken lines over time. Because nobody even understands it anymore.
Sometimes the road markings are done 2-3 weeks, they're wiped off. When I was a kid, I knew about lines, you know, markings in the streets that could stay forever. You could actually see it. These days, I mean, they come and do the inscription, 2-3 weeks, they're gone. Nobody cares. The contractor is not called back to come and say, you didn't use quality stuff for it. In the meantime, there was a bidding process, and they had competitors who came. So was that the best out of the lot that applied to have that contract done? Number two, look at the street lights we have. I mean, our LED cameras, our LED lights on our cameras here at TV3 sometimes may even be more stronger than those ones. Right. I mean, the lights are on, but you can't see anything.
They're pretty dim.
And then it gets to a point, the light just flickers. It starts flickering. I mean, and a lot of money was spent to acquire these things. Who leads us as a nation to acquire these inferior stuff? Who leads us? I mean, in places where they use those LED lights, in countries where they use these ones, they have all the electricity systems properly working. Right. So if they want, even if they want to use solar, it works. So it just goes to complement it. It's a different thing if you have a light that's complementing, you know, an atmospheric light, than to have a place that's totally dark and you have something that appears to be lighting up the place or pretending to be lighting up. It doesn't work like that.
Johnny, we're back. You see, again, let me refer to this statement again. Elvis, good morning. Elvis is watching. He's sending a lot of information. See, we are back to this conversation again. Now, the statement is suggesting that the MTTD will partner private towing companies okay, to enforce regulations. If you remember...
Why was the first one cancelled? Was it not because it was private?
Well, this issue became a big one, and eventually it was shelved. Okay, so there are several angles to how to check road safety.
I'm interested in this particular one.
The towing issue.
Because, you see, the reason the first one was shut down was largely because it was
the cost and then the fact that
it's privatized. Exactly. What has changed this time around?
Well,
it's just like we saying we don't like Akwesi Appiah because he couldn't take us through a World Cup and all of that. And then after yanking him off, bringing a few white people, we go back to Akwesi Appiah. What changed about Akwesi Appiah?
They took him outside to go and check. Anyway, but you know,
was he able to take us to Russia anyway? What changed about him?
They are doing the big things. I'm looking at the smaller things because those are things we can do, such as even educating people on where the triangle.
Yeah, education
I've had a big problem. But that education, right, this one is on the last, they're looking at the big people, but the regular person who uses that road, the truck drivers especially, whose cars always break down in the middle of the road, even where to place a triangle. And that's where they go to DVLA for roadworthy certificates. And we check these triangles. I don't drive without a triangle because I know if the police stops me, they're going to be ask for probably a torchlight. So if you really check and they have triangles, why don't they know where to place it? And you see in the middle of the road, you get so close to a car before you see palm branches and some palm fronds on the floor, indicating that is broken down. But before you know, you've literally driven into the car. So it's high time they highlight these things. I want to hear more education about this. I'm not waiting for the Ministry of Information to roll out
we'll be ranting, but you see, I think that I share in your sentiments. About 4 years ago, Kofi Otredako, KOD, broadcaster, almost died. There's so many of them.
Roland Walker too ran into the same
so many
vehicle,
of them. Of these vehicles that break down and are left right in the heart of the streets. And everybody is watching. Look, I believe that if we had a better towing system, we'll do well. But to have it in a way that doesn't sit right with the people, and even those who will do the enforcement, becomes problematic.
Right.
Okay, so we all know that it is a huge problem. These vehicles are arrested. And then by the time you get to the police station, some big man has phoned the MTTD and asked them to release the vehicle. Right. I mean, I had a chance to speak with a police MTTD officer. I said, look, in a day, if we arrest 100 illegal motorbikers or Okada riders, by the close of day, 85 of them will be asked to go because some big man somewhere will make a phone call and say, let them go, maybe it is mine. And in actual fact, there are MPs There are police couples, there are big men who own the motorbikes who do the illegality. So how can they stop it?
I see.
They can't stop
Elvis
it.
is worried about officers who take bribe instead of applying the law. He says that, well, the only way out is then to get these persons. So the police officers themselves must be checked. Because if they are not taking bribes and are insisting on the right thing, then perhaps we can resolve.
But if you're also not offering bribe, they won't take it. So don't offer it.
Exactly.
No, but bribe, as for bribe, even the days of Adam, it was there.
Who gave bribe in Adam? Please,
let's rant now. We're ranting now.
But that's a bribe. Eve gave Adam a bribe, and Adam
please don't put women in trouble this early
It was
morning.
the snake, not Eve.
I'm even surprised.
Anyway, so the Amnesty International has been talking about the death penalty is most critical. Let's take a look at what ranters have to say out there on the streets.
Human rights organization Amnesty International is calling for the abolishment of the death penalty in our legal system by 2019. Here in Ghana, criminals are still sentenced to death, but the last execution was in 1993. Our prisons currently hold 160 prisoners on death row, including 7 nationals who are foreigners. And so the question is, should it still exist to deter others? It was high time it was abolished. This is Daily Rant. Let's keep talking.
This is everybody's matter.
Okay.
It doesn't lie in any individual mouth to say this is a bad law or a good law.
This is just a cause, so maybe it's a humble plea.
Yes, if it's a plea, fine. But there may be reasons why those things are existing in our constitution. We should exhaust it and further probe into them, why they are there.
Okay.
And if they ought not to be there, we should all be abreast with the reasons why they should not be there.
Okay.
Now, a standpoint, say, as a country, we are unanimously behind it.
Okay.
And then we find solution or what we will put in place to replace it so that it not become a vague thing.
Okay.
Because seriously, laws are made for certain reasons.
Okay.
And when you are taking them off, you have to be very, very tactical.
Okay. You see, prison, as we put it, is a reformation center.
Yeah.
But what do we see? When they go and come back, are they beneficial to the society in which they live in? If they are not beneficial, then I would have wished that they should look at it at the second time. Because capital punishment or death punishment, it deters people. You see people raping people, killing them. Then at the end of the day, that person comes back to say that he has been reformed or he has repented. Then I think the Amnesty International, they have to come out with a clear policy that when those people are fall foul of the law, when they are in prison and they come back, then they should, try to put certain mechanism in place that these people will not go back to commit that crime again. But they are coming back to society. And first of all, look at the trauma. You kill my dad, my mom, then I see you walking as a friend. And in fact, I don't think, to me, it's not going to work.
The last execution was in 93. If we don't really implement it, it doesn't work. Why is it still there? Because I said, I vague at the hockey.
Like I'm saying, it's vague as it is. But then, it is still there. Because, seriously, anytime I'm provoked or I'm about to go out to do something, so far as I know, some of my actions will result into this. It reminds me, despite the fact that there are about 160 people who should be executed and they are there, but they've not been executed yet. They can. When you find some Idi Amin tomorrow, he will just sanction them to go and kill because that's what the law says. They should be killed. But then, a lot of people had life imprisonment now, changed to just paro. So, brother, like we are saying, you killed my father, you killed my mom, you had a paro, and I'm still alive, I'm seeing you. But well, for me, I keep saying I'm a Christian, and I've never had any pain more than 24 hours. So for me, maybe I can endure. But I can't save that for.
No, you see, Masa, Ghana Constitution, until somebody tell me, is it rigid or flexible? If Ghana Constitution is flexible, then it calls for amendment. Okay, fine. The aname confess and say, "Obi ekum umame wakum papa." Now the problem is that anybody be coming back, we have what we call accidental repentance. BBS, I'm coming back to the society. There's no problem. That's what Article 13, 1, and even 3, subsection 3 says. High treason is punishable by them. So will be ever so true abangu. Now it's not going to cost one life. Look at what happened in Rwanda. I mean, so sometimes Amnesty International, I know it's a reputable institution. They've done a background check. They've done thorough investigation. Bringing those people back into society, is it going to cost much more blessing than good, or much more harm?
They are saying justice, freedom and justice. But the word freedom is there for some people. The word justice is there for some people. But the middle class people, I don't believe it's there for them. If you go to the court, it's there. If you have money, you have your way up.
But what countries say Kenya, Benin, Senegal, let's say Burkina Faso, they've abolished it. Yeah, the Boni Beni, we can abolish it. Really? Oh, this is nice. It's my first time knowing. I was going to ask if indeed this law cut across every country, or some countries are giving up on that. So we should I don't know how long they've done that, but we can go and study their system. If it has improved or it has had a negative effect, seriously, then we have no problem at all. We should send a team of researchers. They should go and research and find out, ever since they took it from their statutory law, if it has really improve or negatively affect them. Seriously, when we see that it has really not brought them any harm, then probably we can emulate it. But then for me, I knew that thing was there for a purpose.
Say, Obi a dibone. Now he knows, said the oil. As I was saying, that is Acts of Apostles, chapter 25, 10, 11. And I quote, I say, if I've done no wrong, that I've been paraded before Caesar, then I'll be left off the hook. But if I've done any wrong, then I'm prepared to face the death penalty. No, it's not good to take one's life. Maybe I will not know you're sure. But looking at him, what I said, no, what they say kind by torture and injection. I will take him life, and sometimes you're a human being. You know, who come out but but one who said Nipana Dibone. Now, if you would hear but you see, let's also see if the person is not insane, mentally retarded. What is it? Mentally retarded. No, why should you take somebody's life? You see, the problem is when you pinch somebody, okay, the natural law is do unto others as you want others to do unto you. So why should you take your fellow human being's life? It's not by accident.
First born, second born. No, since you have second born. So it doesn't solve anything. Then you have been biased. Hold on, my brother. I agree with what you are saying. You do mention of manslaughter. Yeah. You see, it's also there. But the point here is how well they will investigate the issue. Because sometimes it can be manslaughter, as you said. So if the security agencies are not well equipped, and there are loopholes in them, because they can jail someone, innocent person. There are lots of them in the prison. That's the issue. So whether it's good or it's not good, it boils down to the investigation. So
it's two-way affair. So you hit here and you hit there so that you have it balanced. Because bad nuts are in the society. And they wouldn't let the good people to even progress. Wherever there is what you can, armed robbery cases are on ascendancy as a result of taking human lives. Then what is our human resource capital?
Also for 160
prisoners are there on death row.
Fine.
They should be there.
They should be there.
They should be there. That tag is on them.
No problem.
That tag is on them.
The problem is
it doesn't make them free. The tag is there.
Yeah. The budgetary allocation for that thing, Abayano still was Peniscom. But you have more life imprisonment. I think it's okay.
So countries like Gambia, Senegal, Burkina Faso, and Benin have abolished the death penalty. Has it helped them in a way? If it has, then the government can also, abolish the death penalty here in Ghana. That's according to the public. Let's know what you also think. Just log on to our social media platforms. On Facebook, it's News on TV3, and on Twitter, it's News TV3. Thanks for watching. Good morning.
This is what it feels like.
Right, and the statesman says that government fighter craft floods the Works and Housing Minister's photographers there. Efforts to stop the perennial flooding. Daily Guide MPs get bail over double salary saga. Ghanaians okay with NPP survey. The story here on the guide. The Daily Graphic, foreign labeled goods flood shops. And 3 former ministers face CID over alleged double salary issue. And the custodian, City FM boss heads Coastal Development Authority, Mahama Camp fingered the next minister's double pay saga. The Today newspaper, Ghana Card suffers setback again, and alarm blows at Metro Mass. The BNFT goes into tax mobile money and lose financial inclusion agenda, and delay in one District 1 factory slows manufacturing growth. These are some of the papers I have with me this morning. My guest to do the talking, Sami Jemfi, is a member of the NDC's communication team. Good morning, Sami.
Good morning, bro.
Hope you're doing great.
By the grace of God.
Thanks for joining us. And the Deputy Minister of Communications and Member of Parliament for the Ewutu Senior West, Honorable George Andai Sosuye. Good morning, too.
Good morning.
Hope you're doing great.
I'm very well. Good morning to your viewers as well.
Thanks for joining us. Let's start our conversation this morning. And this is an issue that is attracting a lot of commentary. Daily Guide has a story here that says MPs get bail. The Daily Graphic carries the same story on page 16. And a quick read of a story says that 3 former ministers of the Aswal NDC government yesterday appeared before the CID in connection with allegations that they had received double salaries. Now, the Director General of the CID, DCOP Mameya Tiwa Adodankwa, did not give the names of those involved, but said they had been divided into 3 groups, with each batch scheduled to appear on a specific time and day. The first group includes certain MPs, the second comprises those who are no longer in Parliament, while the last batch includes those who are still MPs and were ministers in the previous government. Per the arrangement, she said, another batch of 3 former ministers have been scheduled to appear on a specific date. She denied allegations or reports that the CID had suspended its investigations into the allegation of double salaries received by some former ministers who were also MPs. She assured members, however, that the public that the police would carry out thorough investigations and due process would be followed. It has emerged that some MPs who served as ministers in the previous government had taken double salaries. That's the story in the Daily Graphic. Sami, let me begin with you. The minority held a press conference over this and suggested that the CID had actually written to them and asked that 18 of them who were invited need no longer appear before the CID. This story is suggesting that the process is ongoing. Is it something we can get to the bottom of, trying to find out if indeed they took double salaries?
Brian, thank you, and a very good morning to our cherished viewers and my co-panelists as well. It is, for me, unfortunate that government has chosen this path of political victimization of its opponents, Because when you take your time and you look at this issue, clearly that is what it is. Political victimization of political opponents.
It's not government, the police trying to find out if things had indeed gone wrong?
Not at all. This is nothing but a witch hunt agenda meant to cow the minority caucus into silence. That is what it is. Either than that, I see no reason why payroll irregularities or problems in the salary administration of members of parliament can be criminalized in this way, because we know that that is a normal phenomenon with us. The members of parliament in this country are not responsible for their salaries. They are not the ones who pay themselves. You understand? There is an accounts department of the parliamentary service. There is a controller and accountant general's department who do some of these things. And we know, members of parliament have explained to us, that due to the problems associated with our implementation of Article 71, Clause 2 of the 1992 Constitution, i.e. the delay in the setup of the Presidential Emoluments Committee over the years, members of parliament have always been paid salary advances in lieu of their real salaries, pending the determination of the Presidential Emoluments Committee. So what they take are not salaries per se. They are advances. They are payments on account in waiting for their real salaries as determined by the Presidential Emoluments Committee. And so it cannot be said that any member of parliament has taken two salaries, because what they receive are not salaries in the first place. And secondly, we know that as parliamentarians who also double as ministers, they are supposed to take, salaries either as members of parliament or as ministers. Now, when you decide to take your salary as a member of parliament, the Controller and Accountant General Department is supposed to give you a top-up. You understand? For extra responsibility as a minister. And in doing so, there's been some computational errors in the payments. And so the Controller and Accountant General's Department, by no fault of the members of parliament, have in time past paid some members of parliament who double as ministers more than they are entitled to. Some have noticed that and have brought that to the attention of the authorities and the Controller and Accountant General Department, and same have been resolved through various reconciliation exercises. Others also didn't become aware of it at the time that we were in government, hence the problem we find on our hands. And so this has to do with a systemic failure on the part of institutions of states who are entrusted with the responsibility of paying members of parliament who are ministers. Here I'm talking about the accounts department of the parliamentary service. I'm talking about the Controller and Accountant General Department. At best, what you can describe this is that is a payroll irregularity, which for me can be resolved amicably between the employer and the employee. I do not see how this amounts to stealing under Section 124 of the Criminal and Other Offences Act. If I am a member of parliament and I'm a minister, and at the end of the month, you pay me monies into my account, unless I go and check, unless I go and request for my bank statements and all that, I may not know the sources of these monies, and I may, under the impression that it is my genuine entitlement because of the presumption of regularity on the part of state institutions, presume that I'm entitled to it. Now, when the employer becomes aware that there's been some errors in payments, all the employer must do is to draw the attention of the employee, reconcile the figures, make the necessary deduction. And in this case, we are told that before the actual regime handed over power, the account service of the parliament, accounts department, and the Controller and Accountant General Department sat down, reconciled the figures, made all the necessary deductions that they were supposed to make from the arrears and the ex gratia of these members of parliament, and their balances were paid to them. So this issue is moot. And I don't see how this can be criminalized. Why government has decided to demonize and bastardize innocent members of parliament who are doing their work. You see, clearly the minority caucus is a thorn in the flesh of this government. And this government cannot stand the heat. And so it has resorted to this diversionary witch hunt to get them busy at the police headquarters so that they can lose focus on the concrete issues which are confronting the people of this country. That is what this is about. Either than that, tell me, why should Madame Tiwa Dankwa Akufo-Addo, who is not being investigated for her attempts to cover up, some corrupt practices in this government? She's not being investigated. She's the one inviting these people and going after them.
She's not Akufo-Addo, she's Addo Dankwa.
Addo Dankwa, sorry, thanks for the correction. Tiwa Addo Dankwa. I mean, we heard loud and clear in that infamous state between herself and A+, a staunch member of this ruling, MPP, where she was attempting to cover up for the corrupt practices of some government appointees, specifically the 2 chief of staffs. What has happened to that? We are in this country now. Deputy ministers of states and officials of this government have turned themselves into visa connection men, extorting and defrauding the citizenry of money. We all know of the international shame we have received from the Commonwealth Games and the visa racketeering, issues which have come out of that. Nobody has been hauled to the CID to answer any questions. Nobody has been. It's under investigation, but has anybody been arrested? Has anybody been given bail? This is a purely criminal matter. Even in that purely criminal matter, nobody has been arrested. Nobody has been given bail.
Okay, wrap up for me.
Alfred Obeng, as we speak today, is working as a free man. Somebody who has sold over 5 million liters of contaminated fuel belonging to the people of Ghana in flagrant disregard of the procurement laws of Ghana and the National Petroleum Authority law of Ghana. All these people, the cousin of the president, the finance minister, Honorable Ken Ofori-Atta, they are all working free in spite of the conflict of interest. They are engaged in. No, but these are not just mere allegations. These are allegations backed by concrete facts. And we expected that the government, which is committed to the fight against corruption, will not choose the easy way, approach of hounding political opponents, but would have demonstrated same commitment in the prosecution of its members who have been found to have engaged in one corrupt act or the other. For me, this cannot be described as stealing under Section 124 of Act 29. It is important for the CID to show our members of parliament, our honorable members of parliament, some respect and treat this issue as a payroll irregularity, nothing more.
Okay.
Let us resolve the matter amicably.
What about that? Is it indeed the case that this is a situation between employee-employer? So if figures have gone bad, all we need to do is to get the employer to write to the employee that, hey, we've overpaid you, so return the money. It should not be a CID matter. Is that what you also think?
Obviously, majority of Ghanaians and myself do not think along the lines that he's thinking and would not buy into the argument that he's making. Let us also respect that we live in a society where there's the rule of law and that there are institutions that have the mandate to do their work. It's most unfortunate and indeed to some extent actually irresponsible to suggest that the government is interested in witch hunting members of the previous administration for double payment of salaries. The police CID is doing their work. Let us allow the police CID to do their work. If they come out with their report and they decide to prosecute or not to prosecute, we can cross the bridge when we get there. But let us establish the facts. And indeed, when he was speaking, he made a lot of factual inaccuracies. We all know that periodically we are all supposed to file our taxes. And in filing our taxes, we should know what our income is, and we should know how much taxes we are supposed to pay. You cannot tell me that for a government that was saying that its ministers are going to contribute 10% of their salaries to build cheap compounds, they did not know how much net income they were supposed to be receiving. And anything above the net income is something that they will recognize as surplus. Indeed, if you tabulate the total amount of money, the excess that they received, it could build so many cheap compounds.
Okay, so you already know that they received excess.
But they have admitted that they receive excesses.
And we've said that.
I didn't interrupt you when you were talking with all due respect.
So you don't need to interrupt.
Okay. they have admitted that they receive excesses. You cannot say that you were not aware that you were receiving the excesses. The issue which I would have agreed with him, okay, was that if you receive excess salary, it is also your responsibility to make sure that you return the excess salary, especially if you're a minister of state. If you're somebody that has sworn an oath to protect the public purse, if you're somebody that you have sworn an oath to serve the Republic of Ghana, if you receive excess salary, it's your responsibility as well to return it. And listen, when we talk about ghost names and all these things, okay, why is it that we are saying that we should punish those that are receiving salaries, the ghost names and stuff, but you think that it is wrong for the CID to investigate a situation like this, and then you say that it is witch hunting? I mean, totally irresponsible, totally uncalled for. Let us not politicize everything. Okay, Ghanaians are sick and tired of this level of politicization. Okay, let us focus on the true issues. Okay, has somebody done something wrong? Are we going through due process to find out whether the person is guilty or not guilty? Yes. Has anybody been treated unfairly? No. Okay, where does this thing for the witch hunting come from?
Is it legitimate to ask that you have been in the corporate world, if your employer overpays you, is it legitimate to ask that he or she, either verbally or through formal communication, write that return the money, and that it is only when you have failed to return it that perhaps criminal proceedings could come in?
It's the prerogative of the employer.
Okay.
Okay.
If you like, you can straight away take you to
no,
report you to the police.
Listen. The police are carrying out an investigation. Okay. In the process of carrying out an investigation, they've asked for certain people to make themselves available. It may or may not be that the facts that the police have is accurate. But we have a situation where certain individuals who have been caught have admitted that they received double salary. Okay, all of these individuals were servants of the Republic of Ghana. They received appointment letters. They received their terms of conditions. They knew exactly how much they were supposed to receive. They were paying taxes. They were supposed to be paying taxes. Okay, and more importantly, they were saying that 10% of their salaries was being donated, okay, to social services, an intervention by the office of the president then. How then do you come and say you don't know how much you were receiving? I mean, you're a minister of state. It's irresponsible. It's not acceptable. Okay, as to whether the decision of the police or the decision of the employer or the decision of the court, if it gets there, is that they should return the monies, okay, that is a separate issue. Okay, but the point that I'm making is that the police are investigating an issue. The police administration is a public institution. One moment you come and say that the police are not doing anything. When the police are working, then you are saying that they are witch hunting. I mean, please, let us rise above this level of pettiness. Okay, let us allow the police to work. Okay, the individuals have admitted that they received double salaries. Okay, they know what their terms and conditions were. They know what the taxes that they paid were. They know how much salary they were supposed to receive. And the good people of Ghana know that the incompetent administration, the incompetent and corrupt administration, and these things are showing. I mean, if you link it to the Afrobarometer survey, okay, that the results of the Afrobarometer survey, the results still show that 22% of the respondents, okay, only 22% of the respondents are willing to vote back the NDC into power. They still believe that the MPP is committed, the MPP is honest, the MPP is hardworking, the MPP is passionate, the MPP is selfless, okay, and the MPP have got the men, have got the ideas to make Ghana work again. So, with all due respect, let us rise above this level of pettiness. Okay, let us rise above this level of politicization. It's totally uncalled for.
I'm grateful.
Right. Just a little point.
Yeah, a quick one. Then we'll move
Is it
on
when
to
we
the,
talk about
Afrobarometer
the underhand tactics and the political maneuverings that government is exhibiting in this matter, we are talking about facts. We are not making things up. You would recall that this allegation of MPs taking double salaries was first made by Honorable Kennedy Agyapong on television.
Kennedy Agyapong a member of government?
Even before, please, I think you said I shouldn't interrupt. I think you said I shouldn't interrupt. You have your time. I think you said.
Let's stick to your rules. We all had a stake at this.
No, come on.
Okay, if you allow people to go
I mean, when he's talking about facts,
you want to moderate the program
when
now?
he's talking about facts,
you
cannot come and say that there are facts that the government is doing something like this.
To make his point, I'll get you the chance to react.
It's not just about making his points, but you're also the moderator. He's talking about facts.
Yes.
How can you say that it's a fact that the government is witch hunting?
No, I have not said that.
No, but that's what he's saying. You're not allowing him. You're not putting him. You're not stopping him.
No,
and that's why I'm interjecting.
No.
Right, can I continue?
Honourable Wanda, please.
Well, I think that
I have not heard him say that. He was talking about.
Okay, so let him start.
If there's any reaction, I'll get you the chance to
react. What he must understand is that we are all entitled to our opinions. He's
but you're not entitled to lie and
you've sat here and told blatant lies, and I've kept quiet because I respect your opinion.
Tell me one.
Please
tell me one lie.
Please.
No, tell me. He's
accused me of telling lies. I think that you should respect the authority of the moderator.
You've accused me.
Allow me to make my point.
Let me take a quick break.
Tell me one lie.
Tell
me one lie.
We're coming back to you on the issue of the MP salaries. We'll take a quick break. We'll come back. Staying there with us, and we'll quickly wrap up on this and move to some other issues this morning. We'll also be discussing what happened at the University of Ghana campus yesterday, and also take a look at the Afrobarometer survey. Sami, please wrap up on this one, and then we'll move on.
The point I was making is that clearly, when you look at this issue, you see, this issue has all the trappings of a diversionary witch hunt. This allegation was first made by Honorable Kennedy Agyapong. We saw how the Daily Guide newspaper pronounced judgment on this matter even before the members of parliament concerned received invitations
the minority
from the
said
CID.
They were suing the Daily Guide.
Yes, I know that process is ongoing, and their lawyers are considering that strongly. And so we can see through the shenanigans of governments in relation to this matter. My co-panelists described my comments and the fear I expressed as irresponsible, but that is not irresponsible at all. What is irresponsible in this matter has to do with the haste with which over 22 members of parliament were summoned to appear at the CID headquarters, only for 18 to be called after that they were no longer needed at the CID headquarters.
But the CID has denied that.
No, they haven't denied that. They haven't denied that.
They've not denied all of the investigations.
We know. We didn't say that they had withdrawn, the allegations against all. We said that there were about 25, members of parliament who were written to. About 18 of them had their invitations withdrawn. I don't know whether the likes of Honorable Lokujetu Ablaka, who were specifically called and asked not to appear at the CID headquarters again, have been re-invited. That is not the case. So clearly, if you look at the haste and the rush with which this invitation was done, you look at what Daily Guide has done in relation to this matter, how it has called members of parliament names and has sought to pronounce judgment on them even before we begin this investigative process. You look at the kind of things Honorable Kennedy Agyapong came and how he sought to direct the CID and all that. It is clear that there is a big hand somewhere which is controlling the police in this matter. Now, on this issue of some members of parliament have conceded that they took double salaries. I don't know any member of parliament who has conceded that he or she took double salary. What they have said is that what they receive as members of parliament are payments on account, and that those monies are not salaries. That is one thing they've said. Two, what they have said that for those of them who received excesses, before the end of the sixth parliament, the Controller and Accountant General Department and the Accounts Department of Parliament reconciled the figures and made all those necessary deductions from their arrears and their ex gratia. And so they actually received less than they were actually entitled to. So for them, the issue is moot because it has already been cured. And also this this issue of they cannot claim that they were oblivious of the fact that they had received payment in excess because they paid taxes and 10% of their salaries were being deducted for social projects and all that. Come on, the taxes they pay, the income taxes are deducted from source. That's number one. The 10% contributions are deducted from source. You don't receive the money, withdraw the cash, and go and pay 10%. And so it is still possible that some members of parliament, had glossed over some of these excesses. What we are saying is that even if some problems occurred, This is a strictly employer-employee payroll irregularity,
all right,
which can be resolved by the Auditor General, the Controller and Accountant General's Department, and the Accounts Department of Parliament. It must not be criminalized, and political opponents must not be hounded the way they are being hounded by this government. That is the point we are making.
I'm grateful for your time. Yes, you can respond.
I think that we should respect the fact that we live in a country that is governed by laws. We should respect the fact that institutions of state have a mandate backed by laws to do their work. And indeed, that every citizen has his or her rights. The police CID are carrying out an investigation. Let us wait for the outcome of the investigation. In the meantime, the information that is out there seems to suggest that certain members of parliament who doubled as ministers of state in the previous administration were collecting double salary. Some of them are supposed to have said that it is true. However, they were not aware that they were collecting double salary at that time. What I'm saying is that it is quite interesting in one breath to be touting that you are contributing 10% of your salary to build cheap compounds, and in the next breath you are going behind and you are receiving double salary. When you are a member of parliament and you are a minister of state, you know what your terms and conditions are. If, upon realizing that they were receiving double salary, they had proactively returned the excess or initiated steps to return the excess, it would have been a different cup of tea. You understand? But if they have still benefited from those salaries and haven't taken those steps to rectify, then I believe that the police is well within their capacity. And again, I want to debunk this position that he's taking, that this is an issue of witch hunting. Okay, the government is focused on fixing the economy, digitizing the economy, formalizing the economy, making sure that we are delivering on the promises, making sure that we are sustaining the free SHS, making sure that we are providing the right enabling environment for businesses to thrive, and making sure that we are providing the environment for citizens and residents to go about their normal work, okay, without fear. These are the focus of this government. We are not focusing on witch hunting. We don't have time to witch hunt. We are allowing the institutions of state to work, and it is wrong for anyone to suggest that the government has fears of the minority, okay, and as such we would take such measures to get them to keep quiet or to silence them, okay. We believe in democracy, and we will not do anything that is against the rule of law.
I'm grateful for your submission. Now let's quickly move on to this one. Ghanaians okay with NPP. That's a survey conducted by the Afrobarometer Round 7 survey. That's a Pan-African non-partisan research network that conducts public attitude surveys on democracy, governance, economic conditions, and other related issues. Now, it says that nearly 50% of Ghanaians in a recent survey expressed their satisfaction with the Akufo-Addo-led administration and reiterated their commitment to vote to retain the party in power if elections are held tomorrow. Now, out of a large number of respondents from the rural and urban settings, 50% of those in urban areas said they would vote for the NPP, while 48% from the rural areas voted in favor of the ruling party. The NDC's vote in urban centers, 17%, and the rural areas, 27%. That's what the survey is reporting. CDD was in charge of this survey. Honorable Chochanda, let me start this conversation with you. This is something that will push government on the path it has taken as far as its 4-year mandate is concerned.
Well, thank you very much, Bright. I'm sure that you know that these surveys are regular things that happen. It enables government, or for that matter, an opposition or any institution to get certain insights to be able to either continue doing things that are good,
right,
or to do a stop and think, analyze, and chart a new course to be able to connect with the aspirations of the electorate. It's good that we have this number of Ghanaians who are respondents acknowledging the good works of the MPP. It's good that we are realizing that this number of respondents do find that the MPP administration so far is delivering on its promises. They realize that the MPP is competent, is disciplined, is intelligent, is selfless, okay? And they recognize the efforts that are being put by His Excellency President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo and his team to make sure that we can get to a Ghana, or we are moving to a Ghana beyond aid. We are looking at building a new Ghana, and this is what our focus of this administration is. On the flip side, with all the noise that is being made on the other side, we realize that it's only 22% of the respondents that are willing to vote for the NDC and return them into power. Now, even though this is exciting for us, it doesn't mean that we should be complacent, okay? It's just to spare us on, okay, to make us work harder, to make us continue to delivering on our promises, and to make sure that we keep the NDC in a position and that we have the right level of time to be able to create the economy, okay, with all the positive macro indicators, okay, that will put Ghana at the right place. So it's good news. It's not anything to let us sit back and say that it's a done deal.
You won't make government complacent.
It shouldn't make us complacent at all. In fact, it should urge us on to work even much more harder, okay, that the things that we are doing seem to be ticking the right boxes and seem to be addressing the issues that are of concern to Ghanaians. We all know that there have been a few challenges in the first year. However, this result is something that should be urging us on and should be letting us continue to work selflessly, okay, and recognize that the business of governance, it's about service to mankind. It's about us not being corrupt. It's about us not being complacent. It's about us not being arrogant. It's about us making sure that we manage the economy properly. It's about us not showing any signs of incompetence, okay, and making sure that we deliver on the promises that we made to Ghanaians. So we thank Ghanaians for the recognition, and we wish to assure Ghanaians that this is only just the beginning. You know how the MPP works. You know what was delivered under the regime of His Excellency, the former President J.A. Kufuor. You know what we've delivered in the first year. You know the kind of economy that we inherited. You know what we have done to stabilize the economy. You know where the economic indicators are. You know what we have delivered in terms of free SHS, reduction of utility tariffs, removal of taxes. I mean, you know everything that we're doing. Infrastructure development is taking place. I mean, so we are so far so good.
Grateful. Sami, if you look at the figures, it suggests the opposition NDC needs to do a lot of work.
For me, that's very laughable to start with. But, Brian, even before I come there, I'm part of those who believe that scientific research surveys must be given a place in our political space. However, we in the NDC do not believe in the credibility of the CDD, and this is in line with our long-held, view of the CDD and its biased nature and how it has done its work over the years. And so we do not place any value on what comes out of the CDD as a political party. That is the first point that I need to make. Also, recent developments in advanced countries around the world tells us that there isn't much value, or we don't have to place much value on polls and on research surveys like this one, because we all know how all pollsters in the United States of America predicted victory for Hillary Clinton, even in Ghana here, we saw how many renowned pollsters predicted victory for the ex-Wal NDC regime. But at the end of the day, the question we must ask ourselves is whether those predictions materialize or not. So we must, sometimes, even when these surveys are credible, we must look at it objectively, draw the necessary lessons from it, and then do what matters the most. Because for me, I think that what matters the most are not the polls. I am surprised as to why any member of this government or any member of the ruling New Patriotic Party will be happy with these polls. We don't believe in this credibility, but granted without admitting that this poll is even credible, I wonder why they will be excited. Because number one, this is a political party which not too long ago won a national election by a 54 percentage point. Now today, a survey is telling you that should elections be held today, you are going to get 49%, not even 50+1. You got 54% less than a year ago. Now you get 49% and you are celebrating. You are jubilating. For me, that is very worrying. I will be deeply worried if I am a member of the New Patriotic Party. Again, we also know that this discredited poll was even done somewhere September 2017. At the time that this government was not even 1 year old, and we know that as a result of that, the government was still enjoying some level of goodwill from the people of Ghana. And so that is why, according to their own polls, the poll is saying that most Ghanaians are saying that the economy is very bad. They are not attesting to the many achievements that my brother has posited here. They are saying that the economy is very bad. We are in difficult times. You understand? And yet they are saying that, oh, we will still vote for them. Just about 49%, or not even 50+1, and they are happy. At the time that they had a lot of goodwill. Now you see, my brother, for us, the issue is clear. It's an open and shut case.
Get ready to wrap up for me.
We are all aware of the stark reality in our country today, which is that the cost of goods and services keeps on soaring by the day. And the cost of living is gradually becoming unbearable for the vast majority of our people. Check the cost of petrol, check the cost of diesel, check the cost of LPG, basic food commodities on the market, and you will see the unbearable living conditions that our people are living under. We know, with respect to our economy, that today, all credible, institutions like the World Bank, the IMF, are all downgrading us. Ghana has dropped 12 points on the World Bank Ease of Doing Business Index. In the just released Merchant Bank, best place of doing business in Africa. Right, I'm wrapping up.
Yeah, wrap up.
We know that we have again dropped from the 4th position to the 5th position. We know that the unemployment situation keeps on worsening and that there is no plan in sight from this government to address that unemployment situation.
Okay, Sami, I'm
just concluding.
No,
just in seconds.
No, I gave you 3 minutes, so you
just in 3 minutes. I think he had about 6 minutes on this.
No, I gave
no problem.
Both of you 3 minutes. Let's move on. Let's quickly.
But it's not true that
when you come back again, I'll just do a few of the rebuttals and then we move on.
To address tackle unemployment. Okay, we know about the Nations Builder Score. Okay.
The way you are allocating your time this morning,
in the next couple of days, His Excellency the President is going to announce the number of models employing 100,000 graduates, looking at the space of agriculture, looking at education, looking at enterprise, looking at the digitization of the economy, looking at areas of raising revenue, okay, looking at governance and looking at healthcare. These are the 7 models.
All right.
These are the
Samuel,
7 models.
These are the. Oh, you want me to tie it in?
We're taking a quick voice. We'll come back. Okay. Honorable Judge, please wrap up.
Yeah. So I was saying that it is not true that the government is not doing anything about employment. I mean, we know what the government is doing about employment. We know what the government is doing about supporting farmers. We know what the government is doing about infrastructure. I mean, if somebody decides not to see, we do recognize that, okay? But, I mean, the majority of Ghanaians do recognize what we're doing. And again, like I said, this is not for us to be complacent. It's not for us to celebrate. I'm not sure that I said that we're celebrating about this. Okay, we said that to urge us on to continue serving Ghana.
I'm grateful. Let's quickly listen to this voice from the Eastern region. The NPP's, voice of Mr. Stephen Team that is being in the public domain quickly, and then we'll talk about it to wrap up the conversation.
Chairman Mahama, Edini, right? Chairman Adams Mahama, they ran in Mako, Like I say, be a salad party, you may be free national. Papa name, Sansa Mumba, I'm say we here, am I? And Toya Suma, what's that? We will consider you high among others. Thank you.
Yo, Shema. Enka, we don't get someone because of the capacity. But in answer, that affects yen chances because, like you rightly pointed out, when two elephants fight, is a grass that suffers, and that's the party. Now, I will say, you know, as sacrificing for another person. I will be an team never win. Now, you put back into the you're worried, not too more worried. Now, same people. Make them go in airborne. 2 days. Nobody has ever refunded anything to me. We could deal and not be cheap. Can I support to Allah? But let Bansan, the JBB, we could deal cheap. Yeah, primary no man, more winning. As in a general relations, we send him who or my settler communities project, Shema of the head president. This is a new time, as I said, maybe the pet national chairman. Now, I say, oh, Chan Kofa, like you short, I will be a new normal. Our own contested bidder, no woman national chairman. How would you feel? 4 times, go back on the you are your boca, have a 2, less. No. What I say, I'm contesting for national chairman and I'm going to win and I will work with the president after winning. Whether he will work with me or not, I don't care, I will work with him. We need to and not my winning. Say silver cup at any, I'm coming to work for you. That is what I will do. I'm not going to fight my president, but I have to win this election. Because that is my lifelong political ambition.
Right, so that's a chairmanship contest of the NPP. One of the contestants, Mr. Stephen Tim there, a voice that has been making rounds here, suggesting that he's been put under pressure to for him to step down for another contestant. That's what the translation of the Chief voice. He said he's ready to work with the president even if he wins. And we'll go to him and tell him that he's here to work with him. Honorable George Anda, is it the party's position that some people are being asked to step down for others?
Well, Bright, I believe that you know that the NPP is a party that believes in eternal democracy. And on a lighter note, you do recall that there was even a time that there were 17 people that were contesting for the flagship position, or for the flag bearership position. So it's obviously doesn't wash to suggest that there's some underhand pressure asking people that have shown intentions to serve the party to step down. On the flip side, it is normal during a political campaign for camps to negotiate with each other, for people to talk to others, I mean, for some kind of measures and consolidations of teams to happen. But as far as His Excellency the President is concerned, he's somebody that believes in democracy. He's probably one of the strongest people in this country. In the contest. Okay, that believes in democracy, and he believes that the will of the people should be respected, and the people have rights to elect whoever it is that they feel is best placed to lead the party as far as the chairmanship position is concerned. So I mean, I'm not really going to make much of this tape that is being played. Of course, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, the party's position is announced that the contest is open and there are people that are filed and they are contesting. So let us let it go as that.
Some the internal elections and some of these wranglings, perhaps the NDC, which is about to carry out its own elections, is maybe drawing some lessons from this. What could the NDC pick from organizing internal elections that will not see two opposing candidates hating at each other?
When it comes to intra-party democracy, we do not draw lessons from the New Patriotic Party at all, because we know them to be very intolerant, very violent, very undemocratic. And so we are not drawing any lessons from them. What is happening, the tape we just listened to, for me is a shame. It's a shame that a president who should be busy fixing the concrete problems challenging the people of Ghana has now resorted to, frustrating people in his own party who are just contesting for various positions because he doesn't like them. That, for me, should not be coming from a democratic leader. What we expect our president to do is to address the increasing phenomenon of youth unemployment in our country. Honorable was talking about the Nation Builders Corps, a stopgap measure. Were these the sustainable jobs you promised the people of Ghana? Jobs that people are going to do for just 2 years, after which they are going to transfer from it and they are going to earn a paltry 500 or 600 Ghana cedis as an allowance? Was this what you promised Ghanaians? The banking sector is shrinking. Credit to the private sector is coming down. You understand? These are the things that we expect our president to concern himself with. These are the concrete reasons why we elected him into office. And now here he is talking about infrastructure, when we know that this government has done nothing in the area of capital projects, being it roads, hospitals, schools, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I mean,
they have been in power for 1 year.
18 months.
We are talking about a president who promised Ghanaians that he was going to transform this country within 18 months. We are in the 16th month, and so you can't tell the president that it is too early for us to be making some of these criticisms. So clearly, the president has to focus his attention on how he can reduce, import duty at the port for our importers and exporters. He is supposed to address the canker of corruption, which is festering, so fast under his government. He is supposed to address the nepotism, the most obscene display of nepotism we are seeing under his regime, the lawlessness, which is now on its, at its apogee in the country. And how young people in his party have gone on rampage, terrorizing everywhere and so on and so forth. He should leave Mr. Steven Ntim alone. I really feel for the man. This is a man who has made several attempts to be national chairman. The man says, I supported you. I used to support Alan Chemantin, but I came to support you in the last, flag bearer race. Why can't you, at least as a leader, step aside for the process to go on in fairness, so that the best person will win at the end of the day? Why is the president trying to, remote control the whole Congress process and get his, if you like, I don't want to say minions, but his preferred candidates into national positions and all that? For me, that is not helpful. That should not be coming from a democratic, president, and he should be focusing on the worsening economic woes of Ghanaians, the worsening situation of corruption, the lawlessness which is going on. That is why we elected him.
You have made those points already.
The party to elect their own leaders.
If I may, I believe that even for a media house, for you to play a tape like this and to subject it to debate, it would have been fair to have heard from the other side, if indeed there was any such position being articulated. So
by Steve or Alhaji Short?
Well, I mean, I didn't really hear. I mean, and I told you that it wasn't very audible.
All right.
Okay, but from what you were saying, it seems to suggest that one party feels like there's pressure from His Excellency the President to get him to step down. It's interesting that he takes that as the truth. Okay, and decides to go off on the president, and I think it's most unfortunate. We all know the kind of president that we have. Okay, so I don't have any reason to believe that there's anything untoward happening as far as the elections is concerned, and that His Excellency the President is getting into the space of it. I don't. His Excellency the President is not that kind of a person. Okay, but also on the flip side, there's a bit of serious hypocrisy coming from the NDC. You do recall that when they were going for their presidential primaries, there was a gentleman that had expressed the intention of challenging His Excellency President John Dramani Mahama.
Oh, and come on. Can you
Samia, we are wrapping up the conversation.
And we all know what happened to that gentleman. Okay, so you cannot be such a hypocrite, okay, or behave like an ostrich okay, and decide to see everything good in your side and decide to see everything bad when it's not in your side. But for me, the lesson is that this is an election. We'll go through the process, the best candidate will win, and the party will come out stronger than ever before.
All right.
This verdict, right, just in wrap, I'm
no,
just wrapping up.
Sami,
This is the verdict of
conversation.
7-18. We have got nothing to do with this.
Sami Kefi is a member of the NDC's
communication
team. Honorable George Anda is a member of the NPP, a deputy minister and a member of parliament for Wutu Senya West. Jan, we're grateful for your time with that. You send in comments, we'll read them when sports is wrapped up. Stay with us. We're back in a moment.
Welcome back. Let's talk about floods because a flood wall at Asylum Down in Accra has collapsed, and with the onset of the rains, residents are very apprehensive. Water gushes freely into the homes of residents anytime it rains because of the collapsed drains. But with the expected rains in June, we also look at what preparations residents have towards the floods. And there's a special report there, the effect, how to mitigate that of flooding. Take a look at it.
Asylum Down is one of many flood-prone areas where damage to lives and property is huge during flooding in the rainy season. Asylum Down is located in the Klote-Korle constituency of the Greater Accra region. In 2015, when Accra experienced its worst floods in decades, Asylum Down was one of the hardest hit areas. Prior to the 2016 elections, the storm drain was constructed to mitigate the huge volume of water flow into people's homes. The last defense to the flood, the storm drain, collapsed last year. Until now, no effort has been made to fix it.
It's uncertain considering this breakage, this broken stuff here. I don't know what's going to happen.
Big Ben, a resident of Asylum Down, says efforts to get the authorities to repair the drain have proved futile.
We used to live with the assemblyman in this same vicinity, but after the district assembly's elections, he left Asylum Down. Anytime you see him, he is in his car. We can't just get up and go to the MP's house. That's why the assemblyman is our representative.
There are visible signs of preparations towards the rains, as this carpenter has begun re-roofing his dilapidated house. Another family was also seen applying mortar to their building. Doorsteps into people's homes are deliberately raised high to prevent water from entering their homes. A heavy downpour in February this year destroyed 10 houses in Asylum Down.
With the rains expected anytime soon, we have to start packing out. I, for instance, have left the area, but I still have some personal belongings here, so please help us.
Other flood-prone areas include the Graphic Road and Adabraka. Kofi Nto, who resides at Adabraka, says he has prepared adequately for any eventuality.
My room usually gets flooded, so I have constructed a wall about 6 to 7 feet. I expect that the wall extension would prevent the water from entering my room. This is a low-lying area, so there is usually heavy flooding.
The Ministry of Works and Housing has estimated it will cost Ghana $700 million to solve Accra's flooding.
We're being joined by Seji Sajis, Deputy Director General of NADMO, in charge of technical and reforms. And Seji, good morning. Thank you very much for your time.
Good morning.
How is NADMO doing these days?
Well, good morning to your viewers too as well. NADMO is preparing seriously for the raining season. We have started our activities. Normally we start our activities way before the raining season. First of all, we get our information from the meteorological services as to how the rain will the intensity of the rain this year. And this year, the forecast tells us that we'll have slightly above average rain this year. So it's going to be a bit more than last year, and it's going to start a bit early. So we have started experiencing some rains, especially in the northern part of Ghana.
Right.
And we started our education too as well. But most importantly, what we do with the forecast is that we normally send a wireless message to all regional ministers or district chief executives, because per our law, Act 927, the regional ministers are supposed, or they are actually the chairman of our regional disaster management committees. And this committee comprises of all agencies or actors in the region, which has a role to play when it comes to disaster occurrences.
Interesting twist there. We'll come to the structure and the preparedness, but in one of Accra's largest flood-prone areas, residents have lost their lives and property during flooding, especially during the last rain. On their part, residents have put the necessary measures in place to prevent flooding in these areas. However, it appears that residents will again experience flooding during the next rains come June, because authorities do not give it the needed attention. Take a look at the story again. We'll have a conversation with Seji Saji.
I'm here at Latobi Okoshi for a period of 20 years now. So the problem we are having is especially this river. Whether it's river or gutter, we don't know. But when it rains, we can't sleep here. Look at the house. The whole house is full up with water. So if you could see, there's a caterpillar there. Just yesterday, they brought it. I don't know who brought it. But what they are supposed to do, they are supposed to dip really into the gutter to bring the sand outside. But they rather expand it. So when it rains, it comes more. We don't know what to do. Kids are man here. The man went in, that is the end of him.
For 3 days, this major gutter, which appears to be the cause of the floods in the area, is being dredged to help solve the situation. Elsewhere, this would come as a sigh of relief for residents here, as they have for years wallowed in floods. However, residents no longer believe in these signs. Apparently, this isn't the first time such a dredging exercise has been conducted here.
When they brought the contractor, she brought machines to start the work. So when they were about to start the work, the machine sank into the sand, so it cannot move it again. Then they were able to manage and come and let the contractors out. So when they finish, that's the end of it. They don't come here again. Up till now, the only what they do is an annual listing. When it's getting to raining time, we at times force the assemblymen. They will organize for a tractor to come and clear inside, so that whenever it rains, the water can get chance and flow.
The story here at Latobi Okoshi is not different from that of other flood-prone areas in the capital. Residents here are even fortunate to have excavators silting this particular gutter at least twice every year, but the situation persists.
That's Kwabena Idru there, my colleague there. Still have with me in studio Seji Saji, Deputy Director General at NADMO. Chief, so this is the worry and concern of people. In both stories we see they seem to have lost hope and are taking their destiny into their own hands. Must it be the case?
I think that, especially the first story, the residents are doing the right thing under this circumstance, that they know that the rains are coming in and they have started preparing for the rains, which is part of our responsibility to try and educate the public on what to do. Right. Because we are almost getting into the rainy season, if you are not there already, that they try as much as possible to identify maybe safe places, so that in case the water, during the flooding, the water starts rising to some level, they move to those places. Right. And also to try as much as possible to secure their documents and other things as well. And more especially if the place has a history of flooding, and it is so intense, it is always better to move away when the rains are coming in fast and heavy. Yeah. So to some extent, you saw that the second story we had some of our equipment on site, trying to do dredging. What we do normally is that we try and identify silted drains across the country and try as much as possible to desilt. But you know, we are challenged in terms of equipment.
I want to catch. We'll come to resources and equipment. I want to talk about 2015. I had opportunity to see the June 3 disaster. In fact, I did a documentary on that. Following which, I asked a critical question: where are the evacuation centers? I'm sure you know that in disaster management, we need evacuation centers. President Mahama at the time, candidate Akufo-Addo, all the bigwigs, they mentioned it that it must be done now. 3 years down the line, after some 16 or so parks, I remember you remember the Loso Park and other places where it mentioned that evacuation centers. 3 years down the line, they are still bare parks, nothing. And we know what evacuation centers look like. Why are we not able to implement the promises that we make to the people?
Well, when it comes to identifying safe havens, especially evacuation centers, as you talked about, the responsibility normally rests more with the local assemblies. That is with the district chief executive, who is the chairperson
with
of
your
the
advice,
disaster.
of course.
Yes, he's actually part of our setup.
Absolutely.
That is the chairperson of the disaster management committee. We have what we call contingency plans that every district assembly has. And in that contingency plan, identifying safe havens is also part of it. And these safe havens, let me land on that. These safe havens can be school buildings, can be churches, can be other. You don't actually need maybe a park.
I'm saying on this in this regard, after the June 3 disaster, 15 parks. The Kutubabi Swag Park, the one at Loso Park, a couple of them around were identified. And we said these are safe havens. And that we will put in measures to make sure that, so we watch the American movies, we see blankets, we see sheds, we see heaters and all of that. In our situation, 3 years down the line, after those promises were made, I'm asking, why haven't we been able to fulfill the promise we made to the people to protect them?
Yes, I'm saying that in every situation, especially over the years, these 3 years you've mentioned, safe havens have been identified. And it will not necessarily be parks. It could be church buildings, it could be school buildings, and these are identified by the local authorities, especially in the area where the incident is taking place or the disaster happened. Maybe normally you look at the scale. So maybe a church is identified, and what happens is that the necessary supplies that are needed for people who are brought to those safe havens are then supplied. That's what you mentioned, blankets, mattresses, buckets, and some other things that they need in order to, keep life meaningful at that very stage.
What is it? What does it look like now? I'm not satisfied. A promise was made. We know that any and everything can be identified. But in 3 years, those parks that were identified, I don't see.
Let's take the example of one of the parks.
So let's go to Sukura or Tankasi.
Let's take one of the parks. Now, in a situation where there is incident of flooding and people need to be evacuated, the park, the Sukura Park you mentioned, might not be immediately the most suitable safe haven. The most suitable safe haven might be a big church building around, a school building around, but then the park too will be used.
Let's look at the reality. The story we saw, the second one, says Latebia Okoshi is flooding around the Soko area. It floods around those places. It doesn't flood around the town council line park. It doesn't flood there because that's relatively higher. So that safer ground is suitable. I'm saying that 3 years down the line, that park was mentioned 3 years ago. Nothing has happened there to say that, and that's my question.
No, what happens is this, that during a situation like that, tents will be moving every. You will not see a constructed a safe haven throughout the period of the year. No, because that park also serves other purposes. So in a period like this, there will be preparations. If that is one of the places... Are we
prepared for this year?
Oh yes, we are
prepared.
We are.
On a scale of 0 to 100, what would you say are prepared?
in disaster management, it is very difficult to do a rating because disaster, as you know, has both natural causes and man-made causes. The man-made causes we have control
So
over.
low-lying areas,
yes,
flood-prone areas, wetlands that have been sold for construction, people with illegal structures and all of that.
Yeah.
These are conditions we can control.
Exactly.
Have we controlled them?
Yes, to a large extent. We have not.
Let's put a percentage to it.
Yes, no, but to a large extent, we have them in terms of planning, because it starts from somewhere.
Right.
In terms of planning our cities, we have over the years overlooked certain enforcement of certain laws, allowed people to build in areas they are not supposed to build. But that is not even the problem. The problem is the enforcement, people who are responsible, making sure that people don't construct structures on certain areas that are waterways.
What advice do you give the local assemblies? Because you have a representative at the table when these permits are being granted. What advice do you give them? Don't you tell them that this is dangerous?
Yes, NADMO, as we speak, doesn't have a representative, but we have a new law now that is giving us the mandate to do other things to complement what the permitting system does.
Is that law implemented?
Yes, we are now working.
Active?
It's active. It was passed in 2016, so it is active now. The organization is in the process of concluding on the legislative instrument to actually enforce the law. And there's a critical part of the law that talks about issuing permit to meet some disaster management requirements, especially of public places, houses that are 4 stories and above, of occupancy rate of more than 15 people, and commercial buildings. That NADMO will develop some criteria to make sure that the building you are putting up meets disaster management requirements. We are in the process of concluding.
So for now, you don't go on inspecting sites with the local assemblies.
No, what we do is that we normally have the risk profile of this country of every area. So before the seasons, we visit some of the areas, especially when it comes to flood. We have a technical committee on hydromet at the head office, which is headed by an experienced hydrologist. They have gone to quite a few areas. I think personally I've received about 3 reports from the Tema area, from the Shaman area, and I think from the Fienya area. So normally they do these visits before the rainy season, and it is some of these visits that they recommend desilting. They normally recommend short-term measures, medium-term, and long-term too as well. The challenge is the long-term. That is where the challenge is.
Why is that so?
Yes, which is to a large extent beyond the remit of the NADMO in terms of actually proper planning.
Does NADMO have the money, equipment? The last time I checked, you had 2 working excavators. The rest had broken down. And you say you are ready. How do you reconcile that?
Yes, I said ready under the circumstance we find ourselves. As an organization,
is the circumstance favorable to those whose homes may be swept away by the rains?
We don't wait to have everything in place before, because our responsibility is to make sure that any time that disaster strikes, we are there before, during, and after.
You are always accused. Does it not worry you? You're always accused that you don't do your work, and it's because you don't have the resources flatly.
Yes.
So you are always accused. Does it not worry you?
There are always challenges. I'm sure in every sector of this economy, there are always there are challenges.
This is life and property.
Is not different. I think every sector affects people's life too as well. NADMO is not an exception. There are challenges. We inherited an organization.
Showing on the screen now the broken down excavators.
That's the organization we inherited, with a lot of broken down equipment and vehicle. And that's the circumstance. We are trying our best to get the situation rectified. But whilst we are doing that, we are also making sure that we are carrying out our core mandate of making sure that we are the first response organization when it comes to disasters and similar emergencies.
There's always been that question of handing NADMO jobs to party people, not necessarily technical people. What do you say to that?
Well, that is not the case. I mean, I work with very, very efficient and competent technocrats who have been in NADMO. They have spanned the duration since NADMO was set up. These technical people have been there up to this point.
Right.
As to recruitment into NADMO, nobody in the recruitment process brings in political. Well, people belong to political parties, but I'm sure if somebody is coming to look for a job, I mean, political party consideration might not be.
Do you vet them to know that they are properly qualified to do this?
Oh, yes.
You vet
yes,
them.
Yes,
you do.
Yes,
in this day and age, let's wrap up this way. In this day and age of social media, in terms of disseminating information and education and sensitization, I checked your social media page prior to this conversation. Yeah. You had less than 3,000 people there in a country of 29.6 million.
Yes.
What is NADMO doing on the social media front?
We are just, we inherited a very challenging organization, and you have shown some of the challenges as well. It's reflected in other aspects too as well. We are completely restructuring our communication wing of the organization, and you have seen 3,000. That is an
less than
improvement.
3,000.
Yeah, less than 3,000. That's an improvement, but we are pushing and making sure that our communication outfit becomes very strong, especially our relation with the larger populace. So we are working on that. There's a new program restructuring our communication wing.
That's your camera there. Those who are scared about the rains that are coming up, their property, their lives, it may not be their fault. They got their legitimate land, they built in a high place, but somebody is building an illegal structure somewhere, low-lying area. What's your assurance to them? That's your camera.
Yes, I will tell people that if you are already living in a flood-prone area, depending on the intensity of the floods over the years, you please move away. If the rain starts, you please move away.
Right.
And during the floods too, you should try as much as possible to make sure your, vital documents, medical cards, and all those things are placed at very safe places too as well. And make sure you monitor information from the media and other social media networks about the rainfall
That's their
patterns.
responsibility. What is your responsibility to them?
Yes,
what
our
assurance?
responsibility.
I want an assurance for my people.
Yes, our responsibility. I'll give out these numbers. Our responsibility is that as soon as already we have started the process of getting people sensitized about what to do and how to go about it, who to contact when what happens.
Right.
But people should be rest assured that when they call on NADMO, we have a 24-hour standby search and rescue team. And the hotlines, if I can put them out, if I'm permitted to put them out, 0299 350030. Then 0299 350244. Then we have 020 201 14040. I don't know if I could take it again.
Right.
Yes.
Maybe the first one.
The first one. Okay, the most probable, the 020 line. 020 201 14040. So citizens or people should be rest assured that when they call any of these numbers, there's a 24-hour standby rescue team. And we are already in collaboration with the 48th Engineers Regiment of the Ghana Army, the Ambulance Service, the Ghana Police, and the Ghana National Fire Service.
Seji Saji, I thank you very much for your time, and I'm grateful. I wish you all the best. And that's the conversation there. But yesterday, something happened on the campus of the University of Ghana, Legon. We'll take a break. When we return, we'll show you that, and then we'll have a conversation briefly whether or not it's become necessary for us to have a mixed halls in all our universities or have the predominantly male halls. We'll be right back after this break.
Sorry, no, Becca. Send message, Mom. Kasa. No, Mickey. Take your shut up. I'll send message on Kasa. Satarani, Chiromo, and a cow. What do we? Satan, I send message. This is the second time. Shatana not sending message mom.
Mumba take him film.
Ah, Muslim back, you done left your whole goal report and things. No, they send a message in the
sorry, what you doing first? You beg.
You beg. Then I'm on family, I'm family, I'm pay 300 cities in family. Hey, send a message no kasa. But it's still fine.
Yeah, better.
Send me kasa chiro mo. I'm fast canning Sunny upon Chimeju and it's our uncle.
Yes.
When a boy then beat them. Aha, they make them show, otherwise they will see.
We my boys to beat them. You beg, you boys make it boys show.
Well, that was a footage there of what happened in the university campus. But I mean, Johnny and Bright, I'm petrified because it is disgusting to think that students who are in the university, people who are being trained, people who are being educated, will go so loud, will stoop so low to be able to do such a thing to a young man. I think the police should grab them. No parent whatsoever should even step in to speak for the children. It is wrong. It shouldn't happen. And these are the same people who will grow up and gain positions and be in places of authority. And then how does the law work if they themselves think there's nothing wrong with what they did out there?
I think that earlier, and I agree with you, earlier, in the year or so, or I think late last year, there was a conversation about converting all the male-dominated halls into mixed halls. So there was Casford, there was the University of Ghana, Commonwealth, and there was Katanga as well. But the alumni came up strongly and they charged against it. I don't know if this is what we call vandalism, or this is what it means, because I've seen some very respectable persons in this country who are vandals, who are Katangese and all of that, who, behave differently from what is. This is crass, whatever it is. I don't get it. And I think that, look, if we have people going through the university to get education, to be reformed, to become better citizens, and this is all they want to do, it doesn't add. Maybe we need to start the conversation about converting some of these male-dominated halls, because this is not good. This is clear abuse. The guy was scared because they had a machete and they threatened to butcher him. So if he did that, under duress.
There is anger in me. That's why I'm not talking. I'm angry. I'm seriously angry. I mean, if I were the father, the uncle of a family member of that guy, I would simply get really, really angry. Right.
Well, let's go on to the phone line now. Ifya Tenge is the Greater Accra Regional PR ASP. ASP, good morning. Hello, good morning, ASP.
Good morning.
And thank you for joining us. So this is what we're hearing from the University of Ghana. Initial comments, investigation started?
Yes, most definitely. Investigations have already begun into what appeared to be clashes yesterday on the Legon campus.
So what do we know at this point? We have heard different sides of the story, but what is the official position? What do we know?
Yes, what happened was that yesterday afternoon, around the hours of 2 to 2:30 p.m., police received an information that there were some disturbances ongoing on the University of Ghana campus.
Right.
So quickly, the police also proceeded to authenticate that piece of information, and also, if there was anything like that, also manage it. And for now, we may not be able to find the root cause of that clash. But what the police was able to gather preliminary was that there was the disturbances between some students of the Commonwealth Hall and also the Mensa Saba and the Katanga students who were there for an intellectual debate. So this clash ensued between these students ahead even of the debate.
Okay.
But due to the timely intervention of the police, we were able to bring the situation under control, where in the process of managing that kind of clash, we arrested 10 people. And later in the evening, these people or students who were arrested were interrogated. There were caution statements taken, and they were granted bail to their hall of safety for them to write an interim assessment examination that was ongoing.
Okay.
And just yesterday night, around 1 a.m., the police again received an information that some had thronged the hall, the main entrance of or the frontage of the Mensa Saba Hall, and also broken some shutters. But these students were not known, and we continue to liaise with their internal security to help us in our investigations. And also the interim.
ASP, these clashes are becoming one too many. The overall plan, what does it look like to make sure that we forestall these things?
Sorry?
These clashes are becoming one too many. What's the overall plan? Because lives and property will be affected adversely, innocent lives, that is.
Yes, that is an issue of concern, especially when we are having these kind of disturbances coming from this level of education. This means the campuses are quite concerned, personally to me. And I'm just from the district command up to him.
Okay.
But they have an internal security mechanism. They have a security arrangement, usually with a school security architecture, where they go for meetings and also deliberate on issues that would foster in the best interest of the entire student population, as far as security is concerned. And he has also told me that in their next meeting, they are going to raise some of these.
All right.
And we hope that going forward, we should be able to take certain decisions that should deter students from engaging in unlawful behaviors.
ASP, let's wrap up the conversation this way. So there was a victim in the video and there were perpetrators in the video. The understanding is that those arrested were those involved in the clash. Have we been able to identify those in the video who were perpetrating the humiliation?
There is even a video out there.
Right.
Yes, I am not even aware of any video. But the 10 people who were arrested are being investigated. If this video is also received, or if the police get hold of this video, and it even goes to even help us in our investigations.
Okay.
And yes, I think it also help a lot if we have those videos to probably to also give us a lead way in the investigations that we have also already started doing in this crash.
All right. If I think we thank you very much for your time. She's regional PRO of the Ghana Police Service, ASP. That's it, right?
Yeah, it is.
I'm angry. I'm trying not to talk.
Yes, don't talk.
And I mean, this is where we need to see the results, in the sense that immediately you do this, so far as you're picked up, you're expelled from the school. Oftentimes, we'll do the investigations, but then we'll ask them to stay. They're giving some punishment, and that's it. But we need to sack children for this, because they're no longer children when you are able to take the law into your own hands to do something like this.
I hope that those in the video are arrested and dealt with. But that's all for Tuesday. We'll see you tomorrow, Wednesday. Be good. Have a great day.